Hello, I'm Liz Powell. I'm the founder and head of G2G Consulting. And I started the Shauna M. Sorrells Grant Program back in 2020 with my son, Isaiah Dadsey. And it's a very special program for us that we've done every year to provide grant awards to amazing small nonprofits. And we announce it every fall, and then have the winner announced in November, and then in January we want to make sure that we're talking about what it takes to win the award and other tips for nonprofits trying to raise money. So that's what today's focus is on. So we're going to give you some background on the program in case you're new to the Shauna M. Sorrells program, talk about what it takes to have a strong submission, give you some tips on how to access other funding sources, and then just take your questions. So first off, G2G Consulting, my firm, I started back in 2007, so a long time ago, but we've raised well over $500 million in government funding, and we work with for-profits and nonprofits, and have learned a lot of the ways to navigate getting funding that people maybe aren't as familiar with. So we try to be that resource for folks. So creating the Shauna M. Sorrells program is really nicely aligned with what we do. We're based in several places in Ohio, as well as Virginia and DC. We are determined to make a difference and help organizations grow and find funding. We do a lot of advocacy campaigns. There's a lot of important issues that people aren't even aware of, who are sitting right there in that decision-making seat, whether they are an elected official in Congress, running an agency, in the state house, in the city council level, whatever level of government. A lot of times folks need some education and awareness on issues before they can take an action on changing a policy or directing funding. So we do a lot of advocacy work, and new last year, we launched the Women's Health Advocates organization and have done several Capitol Hill days and advocacy efforts there. So that aligns with any of your organizations. We welcome you to join. It's womenshealthadvocates.org. And so we do lots of meetings, state house days, etc. So we live and breathe government advocacy work. Here are some photos of Shauna. We always like to share different photos that show Shauna over the years. So Isaiah Dadsey is her son, and he is the eldest in these pictures with his two brothers. So Isaiah was my stepson and has become my son. I adopted him. And so he is wonderful and wanted to do something to honor his mom when she suddenly passed away. She was an amazing leader. She was a national leader, actually, at the Department of Housing and Urban Development. She ran all public housing for our government. She received several awards for her work. She went on to lead many different housing initiatives, serve on boards. She was a national speaker. And she also really understood that housing is fundamental for people to be able to live and thrive. And she saw how connected it is to health, to education, to having a job, to taking care of our families. And she was just a very impactful leader. She also was very kind and loving and very sweet. And we were very lucky to have Shauna in our lives. So we like to honor her every year with this program and keep her legacy, her great work going. And so thank you for being part of this. So launched in 2020, aiming to make a difference, small nonprofits. Those are 2 million or lower budgets. So we are not looking, because it's only $10,000 for the grand prize winner, we wanted to really have a big impact. So the schedule is every January, we do this webinar. Every September, we announce the application deadlines and the whole program. And then October is when they're usually due. And here's the distinctive thing about this grant program. We try to make it a super short online submission. Our committee goes through, and that committee is made of folks here at G2G. Definitely Isaiah runs this. And then several of her friends and family, Shauna's friends and family. And so we all go through and we rank them. And so we narrow it down to 3 finalists. Then we have semifinalists, and then we have some for just special recognition. And we want to try to recognize several because we want to put them on our website, really elevate, raise awareness about the organizations and what you're doing. So hopefully it can help you get more donors, more volunteers, and keep growing. Once we post online our top 3 finalists, we are happy with any of those finalists winning. And then it's up to you. It's the voters. And so we encourage nonprofits to reach out to their list, post like crazy on social media, send those email blasts, send those texts, get as many of your friends and family to vote as possible. And that is how you win. It is literally by voting. This is a great excuse to get people involved, helping your organization without asking for money. And money usually follows. When the more people get involved and volunteer with the organization, the more likely they are to give contributions, whether it's financial, in kind, connections, joining your board. All those things happen the more you elevate your organization. So that's why we have this approach. Okay, so I'll talk about the winners this year, actually. So here's just some great quotes from Shauna. Make a difference in your community. This life is all there is. Make the most of it. Give, get, be. Give more than you get. Get what you need and be happy. I love these quotes and our beautiful Shauna there. So our top priority is helping those smaller ones, as I said, with a real focus on women and children. That's super important, and especially in communities of color. We want to make sure that the nonprofit finalists build support through that online voting process, which I already just talked about. That's why we have that structure. We are really targeting those most in need. And we want our annual November event where we announce the winner to facilitate giving to nonprofits. So we've called it the opening doors to giving. So in other words, when you're online hearing about these organizations, because we do give time for the different finalists to share what they're doing, and then we like to post the websites. We're really trying to encourage people to give small donations, even if it's $50, $20, something does help. Every little bit helps. So we're trying to facilitate that as well. And then just bringing together nonprofits into this family to gain insights, maybe even network with each other, be part of this community of smaller nonprofits that are all focused on action and making a difference. We want to be as helpful as possible. All right, so let's honor award winners. So we had for special recognition, the Sienna House, the Friendly Inn and Sanctuary Night. We had for the semifinalists, you can see Breast Cancer Care for Washington, D.C., the Islamic Leadership Organization, and the Well. And then for our finalists, we had Cancer Support Community of Central Ohio, Groundwork Ohio, and then the Perinatal Health Equity Initiative. And then the grand prize winner was the Cancer Support Community Central Ohio. So they received the $10,000, but the 2 runner-ups who were the finalists, the other 2, Groundwork Ohio and Perinatal Health Equity Initiative, each got $1,000. So they each got some funding. And then the semifinalists each got $500. So we do try to make sure we're giving some to each organization, but the grand prize winner gets the big prize. So here are some tips, and you probably are picking this up from what I've already talked about, what we emphasize. So we want to make sure that those that are submitting, those that get selected to be a finalist or semifinalist, special recognition, this is what they're doing. They're talking about the grants, purpose, and background, and aligning it with their application. That is super important. People who just pop in the same paragraph that they use everywhere generally don't fare as well. So really making sure you understand that our purpose and our focus is women and children, especially people of color, should be reflected when in your responses to our questions. You want to be clear, succinct in your communication. And again, that alignment and fit is really important. Providing information on how the funds will be used related to the purpose of the grant is super important. So you may serve all communities in need, but with this funding, you're going to do a special women and children program or something like that. That shows that you're aligning with the purpose of the grant. Follow the instructions. That's always important with any grant. Using metrics helps a lot. So saying that we know we'll be able to touch 500 more lives with this grant, that's a really nice specific metric. or saying that, we created this nonprofit a year ago, and in that year we have served X number of people with X number of programs. All those metrics show that you're serious, you're organized, and you are action oriented. The impact of the funds is really important. We want to know that we're going to make an impact, which again is why we focus on the smaller nonprofits, not the larger ones with the big budgets, because we know our dollars will go further. We want to be addressing the needs of women, African Americans, Latina, underserved communities. Just really being clear about that focus helps a lot, and going the extra mile with tailored responses. We always appreciate when those say, we want to carry on Shauna's legacy, or, for example, housing was super important to Shauna. So referencing that, with Shauna's background in housing, we think we're a good fit because of our program, et cetera. Things like that are really nice to see. That shows that, going that extra mile. So hopefully that's helpful tips for our program. We also wanted to share some tips for going after government funding. So they have this community project funding program or congressionally directed spending program. So in the House, it's called CPF. In the Senate, it's called CDS. And these are federal dollars, although look into your state because many states have this funding source as well. So first off, you can track generally what's going on in government with grants.gov for all kinds of grants opportunities. I'm sure many are familiar with that. You can go to agency websites. If, let's say, you focus on housing, you can surf around their website, see what programs are doing. If you're in health, you can see what health is doing, et cetera. And then getting onto newsletters and listservs, whether it's for the agency or for larger nonprofit organizations or associations. That's a great way to find out what's going on. And then to go after the CPF and the CDS funding, that is where you get written into an appropriations bill to receive funding directly. And I would say it's anywhere from a few $100,000 up to maybe $1 million. And it's for all kinds of focus areas. So housing, education, health, workforce, science. There's all kinds of opportunities to get written into the bill. This requires building relationships, though, developing relationships with the legislators, their staff, the program managers within agencies. All those things really help secure this funding. It's really up to the member of Congress to prioritize it. They get to send over their top 10 that they want to see get funded in their district. So you want to have a really strong district connection, strong relationship with the member of Congress, and strong relationship with the staff. And then for grants, some require letters of intent. Some do not. You definitely always need to meet their deadlines. And then know that letters of support from members of Congress can sometimes be very helpful. And then in this environment where some grants have been stopped, it's been members of Congress that have been calling over directly to the White House to get them reinstated. So there's a lot of political influence that can make a difference. So for these programs, it's for 1 year for the CPF CDS program. They want to see matching dollars. So whether you have state matching dollars or a donor has matched the dollars, they do like to see that. And the things that you can use the funds for are programming, equipment, or construction. Now, in the state level, oftentimes it is they have a specific bill that's only for equipment and construction, and then a separate bill for programming. So look into those nuances for your state. So the funding levels, 50,000 is pretty low. That's like, it could be federal, but at the state level, it's usually less money. I think more realistically, it'd be a few $100,000 to $1 million. But it can depend on what's going on that year. If there's no funding, or the president's budget is much lower. I mean, things like that can influence it. But we are just finishing up the appropriations process for the current fiscal year that we're in. They got a bit delayed, but we think they're going to get it all done by the end of next week. And then the earmarks, which is short for CPF, CDS projects, are all in these bills. So the funding will start to be allocated. So it is happening now. The key for success is having a lot of community support, alignment with the members' priorities, and then the right funding account. And I said earlier, that relationship, really making sure the member knows you and their staff know you. I invite them out for tours, talk to them in DC, make sure you're really working it. And as we always say, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and that is very true with this. And the timing. So really around now is when you start to figure out if you want to ask for funding and which bill you'd fit into which account. And then you have to contact the office to get their appropriations form and make that submission. On the state level, there's also a submission process, but they file an amendment for each funding request, especially in Ohio. They have a whole nuance where it's every other year's capital budget where you can do bricks and mortar, and then the opposite year is the operating budget where it is programming. So and we're actually entering the capital budget right now. In May and June is usually when you find out if you got included in the bill. And so that's why you got to keep talking to the offices, keep pushing your project, and you can submit the same project in the House and the Senate. So you have 2 senators, so you could ask each senator to submit for you, and then you can ask your House of Representatives to submit. July, November is hopefully when they pass these bills on the floor and they send to the president, although it rarely happens, it's usually delayed. This year we have a little thing called the elections, which is going to impact that. So it'll definitely be a December type of omnibus or mini bus where they package some bills together. We shall see what happens. It could be December, January before they finish out the current process. But as soon as they vote these bills next week, they're going to shift to FY27 appropriations process, and they'll start setting up the system for how you apply. And it will be an online form usually that you have to send in. Tips for pursuing all grants. You want to know your funding needs and be super clear and succinct about that. You want to research and personalize and align with that grant resource. So whether it's that CPF, CDS, more political, where you need that member of Congress involved, and they're going to be all about impact in the district, especially job creation is really big, versus a grant. If you're applying directly off of grants.gov for a grant, you want to make sure that you are aligning with what the grant requirements are, eligibility, what they're really trying to address. That's super important. It's not worth it applying if you don't take the time to answer all these questions and really do that alignment. Also, I would say for federal grants, it is really helpful to develop relationships with program managers and agencies and get insights on what they're really looking for. And sometimes they'll tell you about opportunities that aren't even published yet. So that can really help your chances when you're going after grants that are listed on grants.gov. Answering all their questions precisely, concisely, meeting the deadlines. Definitely, you can't submit if you don't meet that deadline. So that's really important. Developing a list of targets to pursue. So like I said, you have 2 senators and 1 representative. You might run a program that's statewide or maybe has like a few different offices across the state, and maybe you can apply for a few different reps. But whoever you apply for, you have to make sure you have that connection to the district back home. Communicate succinct summaries of what you do, why it's valuable, and how we'll use the funding. Super important. Using statistics or metrics is really, really important. Showing how many you've already served, how many you will serve, those types of things show that you are very organized and action-oriented, as I said, and that you will help that member of Congress look good. I mean, they want to show that they're making a difference in the community. So the more you have numbers to show that, the better. Relationships, I keep talking about that, building them, nourishing them, super important. I had mentioned earlier, inviting them out for tours and media engagement is also good. You can do social media, talk about how great that representative or that senator is, how much you appreciate their supporting your request, your organization. They love that. Lots of pictures and posting, that's all good. And then when you come to DC, you can also take pictures and post, and being appreciative and helping them elevate their profile as helping in the community is definitely a win-win. Engaging the community you serve. You could do a whole letter writing campaign where you have several members of your community sending in letters of support for the funding request, the CPF or CDS request. You can have members of your board. Sometimes they're very connected. They might know members of Congress, or if you're going after state funding, the state legislator. You want to tap into all of that. And again, remember, squeaky wheel gets the grease. It's super, super important. And then follow up and stay in touch. You can, a few weeks after you see them, say, hey, there was an article in the newspaper about the exact topic we talked about. I wanted to share it with you. Sometimes it's nice just to be friendly and helpful without pushing hard for money, just being a resource. Also, I would think broader than just the funding. So let's say you're a mental health organization and you want funding for your mental health organization, you definitely pursue that, but you also want to be their resource on mental health. So as they're making decisions on mental health policy, they contact you. So recently they announced they were going to cut $2 billion worth of grants in mental health and substance abuse. So if you were that resource, they would contact you to say, what do you think about this? Is this going to impact you? That's an example of where you can be really valuable to them, share with them the impact of those cuts so that they are then empowered to stand up to them. And honestly, that's what worked recently. They, within 24 hours, then reversed that decision because there was such an outcry and a response. So being their resource is super, super valuable in addition to getting funded. And here's my contact info if you have any questions or wanted to email me. And I think that's it. So if people have any questions, I'm happy to answer questions. Will we be able to send us a copy of the slides? Sure, absolutely. If you have any questions, you're welcome to put them in the chat box. And if not, we'll wrap up and make it super quick. It's up to you. Okay, not seeing any questions. Okay, well, keep being awesome. It's our small nonprofits that are making such a difference. And I know it's challenging, but there are funds out there, and we are always eager to help nonprofits succeed. You are key to keeping us going. You keep communities going, and we really appreciate you. So thank you so much, and stay tuned for September for the next round of the Shauna M. Sorrells Grant Program. Take care. Bye.